to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the meeting to talk about the schools in the spotlight.
Yes, this evening I am thrilled to have representatives from our CERT and EMT program at the high school. And Paul Bancroft, the teacher of those classes, is here to introduce the students, and they have a little bit of a presentation around what each of those classes are and what they're learning in there. So Paul, if it's okay with you to introduce the people you have here tonight?
Sure. Representing CERT, we have Greg and Kaylee, and then representing EMT, we have Rachel and Amanda.
So why don't you guys come on up to the podium or up here so you can all present together.
So I'm going to do a quick PowerPoint explaining just the mechanics of the course, and then I'm going to turn it over to them after each course.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right. So these are the two public safety courses we offer here at RHAM. The first one is CERT, which stands for Community Emergency Response Team. And the main goal of the course is to prepare the students to protect themselves and their family in a variety of emergencies. We talk about situational awareness, in other words, keeping your eyes open, trying to avoid situations where you may find yourself getting into danger and being aware of dangers that might be coming your way. We talked about disasters, where you should be prepared with your family to hold your own for 72 hours while you wait for help to arrive in a major disaster. And in the event that you should get caught up in something, we teach first aid and triage and damage control techniques. Those are the chapters in the course: preparedness for disasters, first aid, triage, fire damage control, light building search and rescue, hazmat, incident organization, how the emergency services organize themselves, terrorism, disaster psychology, or dealing with the survivors, and a separate unit on search and rescue technician 3. The students do have the option to join the regional team. There's a regional Andover, Hebron, Marlboro team that is operational. If they were to be part of that team, they would participate in public safety pre-planned events where they would do communications duties and some first aid stations. The big ones for us are the Harvest Fair and the Solstice Run, which is the Hartford Marathon Club, runs a 3 and a 5 mile race in Gay City every spring. And the CERT team actually provides all of the safety and communications out on the trails. In the event that there was an activation where requested by the fire department, students who were members of the town team could also support the fire department during an operation to search for typically a lost hiker in Gay City or Grayville. And finally, in the event of a major disaster, students could be asked to help distribute food and water and operate a shelter. And that actually happened here. Those of you around for Irene, if you picked up MREs or water in the town of Andover, or if you came here and took showers at the high school after that storm, those were RHAM student CERTs who were operating a lot of that. So I like to tell them they're kind of the Swiss Army knife of tools. They can do a lot of things. They're not great at any one thing, but sometimes it's what you have in your pocket that really matters, at least in the beginning. So they're kind of like the kid who puts his finger in the dike, holding back whatever the problem is, or holding their own until the first responders can get to them. And that's an overview of the course, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Katie.
So first, it teaches us a lot of preparedness. As kids, we're going to grow up in the real world, and we're going to come across things in life that we're going to need to be there before the first responders get there.
You're all set. We have another board member just phoning
Oh,
in, so
okay.
you're all set.
And it teaches us to be there and to respond and help each other out as bystanders. And the class is visual learning, it's hands-on, it's notes, it's a little bit of everything. It's a whole different style of learning, and it's really interesting. Every single day there's something new, it's a different chapter, you're learning a new skill every single day, and you practice it. You don't just learn it, you get to hands-on. We have to do 2 hours of hands-on as experience to pass the credit, and it's really interesting and it's really cool to learn.
So one of the main reasons I like CERT is because it's really important. You learn a lot of life skills like first aid and learning how to deal with mass casualty situations and stuff like that, just basic survival skills, I guess. And it's a very comprehensive course. You learn a lot of different You learn a lot of different things, like for example, first aid and triage for treating a bunch of people when you don't have enough people to treat and more patients than you have. And it's also a really good intro to the EMT class, and pretty much everybody from last year's CERT class actually joined the EMT class this year.
So that must mean the lead into the EMT class discussion now that we're getting here, right? Excellent job, you did that well. And then I think we'll ask questions totally at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, he was my lead into the EMT program. Oh, there's that new security alert. You'll find out.
You are.
Which is on see if I can get it. There. And then. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work. We'll find out.
Okay.
Okay, so what is EMT? So essentially, in a nutshell, it is the basic level of ambulance care you're going to get. So if you call 911 in any of our communities, the first ambulance technician who's going to reach you is going to be an EMT, emergency medical technician. This is the baseline level of training to handle 911 calls and treat people in the street. It's a pretty comprehensive class. We cover all of the body systems, all of the major illnesses and injuries that can happen. And then there's some other stuff on top, things like how to load a patient on a stretcher, how to use the radios to communicate with dispatch, record keeping, legal ramifications, all the laws involved, regulations and rules. So it's quite a bit to the class. The class is regulated by the state of Connecticut Department of Health. They require that every student, not the course, every student in the course must receive at least 150 hours of instruction. So we actually build the class bigger than that to account for field trips, sick days, things like that, to make sure every kid does get that 150 hours of instruction, which turns it into a full year course with a lab. I have students in 2 lab periods 4 days a week. I see them in small groups of 2 to 4, so I can work with them on the skill stations. They're also required to do either 10 hours of clinical time in the emergency department or 10 patient transports in the back of an ambulance. When they're finished with the course, they'll have to take the state exams. The written exam has a first-time pass rate of 64%, so about a third of, this is not just for our school. We don't have our stat yet because they haven't done it yet. I'm thinking it's going to be better than that. But nationwide, about a third of people don't make it on their first attempt. About a quarter don't make it after the 3 allowed attempts at the written. And then there's a psychomotor or practical exam where they have to pass 5 stations, so they have to demonstrate the skills. And again, the tests cover all of the body systems, everything from trauma to medical. We're fortunate that the state of Connecticut is one of a handful of states that allows students to become EMTs below the age of 18. The majority of states require you to be 18 to take the course. Connecticut, New Jersey, and a few others allow them to be EMTs at a younger age. And that's actually really good because they get an early start and they actually are quite accomplished by the time they turn 18, 19 and want to go into the workforce. They've got some actual experience under their belts. Okay, so now we're going to find out how volume works. Okay, so this is a video that kind of inspired me when I was thinking about putting the course together.
52 days. This is unit 53. I'm ready to check out your read.
We're going to give you oxygen.
The teenagers really run out to where the adults.
You have no idea of the level of training they go through.
It's vital that the young adults be the governing body.
This is the last night to make up training before you get brought to the officers.
Post is a very selective place. There's a huge responsibility that comes with it.
I was looking for a way to extend this relationship with my son where he could learn the dangers of drugs and alcohol by learning rather than having it preached at him. Post 53 became the very first program for emergency medical technicians.
Their role is
absolutely essential. Without post 53, the whole system collapses.
The age of these EMTs doesn't make any difference to me.
What happens in the first minute or two after a medical emergency can mean the difference between life and death.
These are some great skills that they're developing. It's real life.
As a teenager, able to handle the trauma that comes up on some of their calls.
Our role here is to be mentors and to have an influence on their lives.
If a teenager is given the opportunity, the door is open for them, they'll do it.
Backwards, to college, please.
This whole experience lets you understand who you really are.
We can do it if we have people willing to believe in us.
Radio 53 responding. If you make assumptions about teenagers, it can be completely false.
There we go.
It's a privilege to be here.
I consider them my family.
Oh, it's completely changed my life.
If it wasn't for the young people here that came to my rescue, I'd be dead.
How often do you get kids to take care of you and save your life? Not every day.
Everyone clear? Ready? Everyone clear?
So that's Darien, Connecticut. And for 50 years, the ambulance in the daytime, if you call 911 in Darien, Connecticut, the ambulance comes out of the high school. Completely run and staffed by high school EMTs. A pretty amazing program. They've had that for a long time. They've had a tremendous amount of success with it. Close to home, Ellington ambulance is the same thing. The high school is across from the ambulance base, and the kids literally walk across the street, get in the ambulance, and take the call. So kids can do this. And the experiences they get, I have there's an astronaut, wrote the book Endurance, who was an EMT. He's the one who's a twin. His brother was married to Gabby Giffords, who got shot campaigning. Anyway, I got an email from him talking about his experiences, and he said that being an EMT in high school changed his life, turned him around, taught him responsibility, and the things he learned as a teenager as an EMT helped him to handle the stresses of being an astronaut as an adult. I thought that was actually kind of cool. So, all right, so we offer the course obviously essentially for free. If the students were to take it commercially, which is the way it's usually done, it would cost them about $1,200 to take the class. Here we only ask them to pay for their tests with the state and pay for their CPR code. All right, so EMS treats 25 to 30 million patients a year. So that's one big reason that a lot of these kids said they wanted to do this is they wanted to help people. That was a theme when they did their application essays. Also, it's a great lead into other careers. I think the students are going to talk about that. A lot of these students want to go into nursing or advanced practice, RN. Some of those fields like APRN will actually take the EMT hours that they serve now and apply it towards their college courses, which is pretty neat. And Lynette will want you to show an update. Mind if I cancel that?
Yes, you can cancel it.
I don't know. Another reason that I'm happy to see so many kids getting involved is that volunteerism is becoming a huge problem nationwide. NBC did a story a while ago about the volunteer ambulance services. It's happening right here in Connecticut. On April 1st, the Hampton Chapel Ambulance will close their doors forever after 75 years or something like that. They simply don't have enough people left to run the ambulance in their town anymore. At this point, it's undetermined how they're going to provide EMS. And that's it. So that's what the course is all about. I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Amanda was first, or who's going first?
You can
It's all
come up
yours.
to the podium if you want, so we can hear you a little more. Like, you guys can come behind him so we can ask you questions afterwards.
So one of the really cool things about the EMT course is that everything we're learning is real life situations, and it's things that we're going to later apply when we do take the test. So as soon as we take the test and are cleared to be an actual EMT, every chapter we cover in class, every skill we learn, it's not just stuff that we can learn and we'll never use again. Every single thing that we're learning is something we're going to be using, and everything is it has substance to it. It's important and it's really engaging to learn. It's not just one of those classes where you sit, you learn, and that's it. We have hands-on activities. We get to do our clinical time to pass the class, and we actually are getting to kind of shadow in an ER for that, and so that's really cool because we're getting that experience before we even take the test, where we're getting to see like what it's like in like the hospitals, and like when the EMTs like come in, we'll hopefully get to talk to them, people who are already serving as EMTs. So it's cool seeing how everything that we're learning applies to real life situations that we're going to be faced with when we do start practicing as EMTs.
So one of the biggest things about the class is the book, quite literally. But like every night, it's a huge time commitment because every night we have to read the chapters. We have to read like 10 pages and be prepared for discussion in class. And we also have quizzes that we have to take online, which seems like a huge responsibility. But when you go into class and we have discussions about it, and Mr. Bancroft shares like real life examples of what we're learning, it starts to make more sense. And like she said, with the real life application, like we start to understand why, what we're doing, what the purpose of why we're learning everything, even when we're just learning anatomy, maybe not stuff that could go wrong. And it's also like beyond the time commitment of like the academic commitment, it's also like getting involved in your community, because I think 12 of us, the 2 of us included, have joined our local fire departments, and that's like getting one step closer to being able to help people, because even before we become EMTs, we can become involved in our community and in our fire department and help like volunteer.
Yeah, and it's very helpful to those of us who do want to go into medical careers after this, because we're learning all the body systems now. We're learning how different symptoms will apply to different like diseases and different like conditions that people have, and so we're already going like into that field with that prior knowledge as high school students.
Do any board members have questions for our students or Mr. Bancroft?
I don't have a question, but I did see the picture of the graduates. I think it was in the release a couple of weeks ago or not too long ago, from the EMT course, celebrating. How many kids graduated this year?
This is our first year, so it's a full year. So they've got until June before they can.
And it's only high school students, right?
Only high school students.
I think this was an awesome, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, my husband is an EMT. It's a difficult exam, so good luck to you. But I think it's fantastic. I certainly hear from him the shortage of the volunteers. He's in Belmont.
Do you guys ever get scared with some of the situations you might have to face, and knowing what to do or feeling confident to be able to handle it?
Yes, but we do a lot of practical exams, and Mr. Bancroft's very tough patient. Also very creative patient. I think it really helps prepare for those situations, because if we do forget to do something like take a blood pressure on Mr. Bancroft, it's a lot less scary than if we got to actually do it in the field. So I feel like he does a very good job of preparing.
And that practice really does help you too.
And we also have the ambulance, which helps us like practice in a real ambulance and not just like sitting in a classroom learning.
You call it the ambulance?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Any other questions?
I'd just like to say that I think this is an excellent and an awesome addition to the RHAM curriculum, and I know you put a lot of work into this with your team, and I want to thank you for all your dedication and service. This is really exciting, and I'm really excited for the opportunities for these students and lots more coming up the track.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
You don't have to say the rest of the meeting, you do get to go. Any public comments? We have public comments now. Are there any?
Hi, Ben Corona from Anson. Just really quick, I'd like to thank Tom Tremont for his service, and also especially Amy DiMatteo. Have kids that are the same age, and you have been instrumental in affecting positive change over the last 8 years, and I appreciate that, and I know a lot of people in town appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay. Anybody want to add or delete any agenda items? Okay. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but the student representative report, do you have anything? Okay, cool, that's great.
Then, a good one. We had our homecoming, and everything was better. And there's
You know what? Can I ask you to turn your microphone on and speak into it, because we do have 2 board members also on the phone. So you get to use this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just
Perfect. It might be on already.
Just
So
turn it
maybe
off.
you
Yeah.
could just tap it, bring it.
Turn it off.
Maybe I turned it off. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Okay, Dana.
So yeah, we had our homecoming at the beginning of December. It was very fun. So we also had our homecoming football game and our volleyball games, which the girls won. So they're going on to states, I believe, and stuff. And then same with the girls soccer. They were also successful with their conference team.
And I mean, we had a spirit week,
We
but
did.
overall things are going smooth.
Very good.
Was there a pep rally?
There was.
Yes, there was.
There was.
And what are some of the things that happened at the pep rally?
We had relay races. They had a lip sync battle. We did. We had a RHAM roller coaster, which I don't know if everyone knows of that, but it's kind of a tradition where one person, they just like to reenact a roller coaster with the whole school. It's really fun. It's kind of fun.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, so board chair report. I would like to take an opportunity to say thank you to my board members. I've enjoyed my time serving, and being the board chair this past year has been a great learning opportunity. I'd like to thank Pat. I think you do an amazing job, and it's hard to do it all, but I think you do a great job trying. And I'd like to thank Sue, my vice chair. She's been an amazing support over this past year. I think we've worked really great as a team, and I enjoyed getting to know her, and she was just a great support, great to bounce ideas off of, and I think we worked really well as a team, and I thank you for that. And just to shift gears a little bit, for the incoming board members, Sue and I have talked about providing mentors for the new board members, Jessica and Vinny, and Stephanie Bancroft is agreed to be Jessica's mentor, and Kathleen has agreed to be Vinny's mentor. And the hope is that if you take some time and just go over some of the basic expectations, and then also answer questions if you have any. And I know that Vinny's close with a bunch of people, and so just expanding that a little bit. And I think that's it for me. I think Sue wants to
Yes.
say something.
Yes, I'd like to take time out right now just to do some celebration of the board members, Tom, Tremont, and Amy. I'd like to read a few things, so I will start with Tom. Tom could not make it tonight, but hopefully he will watch, or this information will be passed along to him. So Tom Tremont, he joined the board on 12/1/07, and he is has the most seniority on the board. Tom has worked on the athletics, facility, communication, program negotiations, subcommittees over the course of his service. Tom has always been very supportive of the school district and worked hard to support the superintendent's vision. He has been an advocate for students throughout his tenure. Tom's passion and directness will be missed. And we also have a letter that Carol Shea wrote, and it asked for it to be read and added into the minutes. So I'll take some time right now to read that. We have heard through the grapevine that Tom Tremont will be leaving the RHAM board after 12 years of dedicated service to public education in the region. I had the privilege of serving with Tom on the RHAM board for 4 of those years, 2014 to 2018. My husband Dick and I have since retired and moved to New Hampshire. Tom's long-term commitment to the board is admirable. He was hardworking and dependable, regularly attended not just board meetings, but all the numerous committee meetings, budget meetings, executive sessions, etc. You know, the meetings that don't get mentioned until after you manage to win a seat on the board. So true. I shouldn't have said that out loud in front of Vinny and Jessica. For one example, Tom spent many hours and late nights serving on the negotiation committees and collective bargainings with the school, various unions throughout his tenure on the board. Reliable and honest, Tom brought a well-grounded, realistic point of view to many issues expressed clearly and to the point. He could listen to many opposing agendas, opinions, and points of views on any given subject, and then had a remarkable way of distilling them down to the core issues and likely outcomes. I always look forward to hearing what he had to say. I am sure he will be missed, and I would just like to say thank you to Tom Tremont for generously giving his time and energy to the Region 8 Board of Education. Carol Sheck. And for Amy, Amy joined the board in 12/1/2011. She jumped right in and began working on the policy subcommittee as well as the program subcommittee. She also served on the strategic planning committee and athletic and extracurricular activities and the negotiation subcommittees. Amy continued with the program subcommittee throughout her tenure as a board member. In addition to working on subcommittees, Amy became vice chair on 3/19/2018 and then became chairperson on 2/12/2018. Amy's areas of interest were always on student achievement and working to make sure every student's needs were met. She's been a true asset to the Region 8 community and will be sorely missed. Thank you. And we have a plaque to present to you.
Oh, that's so nice.
And we have some cake. We would like to just take a 5-minute recess and just cut some cake that we have for
Yes.
Amy.
And if I could take a picture of you giving the plaque and then I'm gonna, we can take, like, I think you said a 5-minute break. We should have some cake. If people would like to please come have some. We've got some lovely cake for everyone. I guess they go to that, huh?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
It's like you'll deal with the cookie, Bob.
Dieter?
You have a plate right now, right? This smells nice. Spent so much time on this.
Thank you so much.
She didn't say she wanted that one.
Good things like that. Oh, thank you.
If you guys want to come grab a piece, help yourselves, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're supposed to lick your finger. Well, first of all, it's blue frosting, so I think all night long. Oh, thank you. Pat. Cake no good. No, thank you. Cake.
I will take one, thank you.
Okay. There are some pieces here, please help yourself. Thank you, sorry about that. I really love it if people would have some.
No.
I didn't have to, I'm going to sit here.
Post it.
Okay.
But now all the stuff that's good tomorrow. It's actually small. It's a business. Good. So much business. When I went, I wanted to trade with
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna, I guess, call the meeting to order again. And we're gonna transition over to the report of the superintendent.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It'll take you a few minutes to.
Yeah, I will. So I just wanted to mention that myself and Sue and Judy went to the Cascades Convention. It was on Friday and Saturday last week. I attended on Friday. Judy and Sue were able to be there Friday and Saturday. There were a variety of wonderful workshops that were made available for us. And I think one of the things that was provided was information. Sue and I went to a roles and responsibilities of board members presentation that was put on by Capson Cave. The handout that Sue is providing you is information that they have around roles and responsibilities. There was also a variety of keynote speakers. The keynote speaker on the first day spoke about diversity in a really interesting way. It was a very powerful presentation. And I'm hoping that as they post some of the presentations from the Caps Cave convention, that you could also go online and we'll share some of them with you because the presentations were amazing. A lot of good information shared during that time. Just as a reminder, we do have the Thanksgiving break coming up. Next week we have a half day on Wednesday, November 27th, and then the building is closed on Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving break. And I'm hoping and wishing everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and time with their friends and families. Last week we did have a half-day PD Day early release day. The early release days are a switch this year from coming in late but having early release. The focus of those PD times were around technology. Some of our, on the full day professional development day, on election day, our professional development groups got together to meet, and I'll talk more about those in my presentation. There was a lot of focus around school and department goals. And also on the early release day, we had a speaker come in to work with our administrative assistants and guidance department that deal with student registrations and making sure that we have our most current policies and practices in place to be registering students properly within school. So it was a nice variety of workshops over the last couple of days, professional development days. Also on the early release day, we had law enforcement officials that were in the building from a variety of surrounding towns and areas. They were all here to do training within the building around emergency response to schools. It was wonderful to have them get very familiar with our middle school and our high school, and having a lot of discussion and feedback around practices that they would have in emergencies. So it was all around, I think we were able to provide a variety of learning opportunities for everyone, and look forward to continuing to have those opportunities with law enforcement moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Need a motion that the RHAM Board of Ed adopt the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from October 21st, 2019 regular meeting. There were no personal motions. So can I have a motion, please? So moved. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? I did want to note as I was reading, it doesn't indicate who submitted the minutes. So if that could be added.
Yes, the only thing I noted was Khan Academy is KAHN, in case anybody looked it up.
Yes.
Not like the Connecticut Academy, it's a different type of academy. Sorry, I've done that before.
Okay, thank you.
I just crossed a sentence in one of this is the draft of the minutes?
Yes, yes.
I just had, I got confused when I got under, it says policy 6146, graduation requirements.
11.1A.
It's like the 1, 2, 3, 4th, last paragraph, there's a sentence that says, Ms. Bancroft questions if colleges review board policy. I was very perplexed by that. Is it colleges without the apostrophe?
Colleges with, yes, without the.
Yeah,
Colleges plural, it should be.
Okay,
In
so
small
maybe
c.
make a correction on that.
Okay.
I got you, I didn't know if it was the college review board they were referring to, or if they meant colleges in general.
Yeah, it should be plural.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. All right, and so can we have a vote? All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Thanks. Okay, old business, there is none. Moving on to new business, discussion concerning the tentative agreement between the Region 8 and Administrative Union for the successor collective bargaining agreement.
So what you're being handed out right now is the red line copy of the contract that was negotiated. And I will give you the highlights of that. So, you're welcome. The lawyers said that we will first have a discussion and then we can actually vote on the contract itself. I don't know. So the red line copy does allow you to be able to see the changes between the original version that we currently have now and the negotiated copy. I will give you just some highlights. First of all, we negotiated a 3-year contract, as you can see on the front page, from 2020 to 2023. And just to highlight some of the areas, there is a 2.5% increase in each of the 3 years, for a total of a 7.5% increase. In addition, there is a 0.5 equity adjustment increase for the special education director and the pupil services director and the pupil services supervisor. The committee found by the review of all of the data around the salaries for those 2 positions within our Durham area, but also within surrounding towns, that we were substantially underpaying those 2 positions, and so negotiated the equity adjustment of a 0.5% in each of the 3 years of the contract, along with a 2.5% increase for all of the administrative group. As you can see in the contract as well, and I'll point to the pages momentarily, there were some changes along with the insurance. As far as the insurance goes, on page 5 and 6, you will see that there is a reduction in the board contribution over the 3 years. It'll be 50% in year 1, 45 and 40. We added a wellness provision that the other contracts already have, and the non-certified and the certified teachers already have a wellness provision that allows the administrators, should they do all of the proper care plans, they can, which are at the end on page 16, they can have a discount of a 1% discount on their health insurance that they are paying for the year. And that amount that they would be, the deductions are on page 7, and in year 1 they'd be 20.5%, year 2 21.5%, year 3 22.5%. Other changes that happened around the insurance are around the RX amounts, the prescription amounts, and generic prescriptions. There is part of the insurance program that they've agreed to is that when you are being prescribed any type of a prescription, if there's a generic equivalent to that, that you will start with the generic equivalent. If that works sufficiently, then that's what you will use. If it does not, you have the ability to go and change to the name brand type. The other provision around the amount limits are specific to limiting the amounts of the prescription that you would get for example, a painkiller that you, let's say, had your knee operated on, you were going to be given a painkiller that you would only be given a small amount, like a 7-day amount, rather than something more than that, just as a limiting factor. And then if you needed more, you'd have to go back to your doctor so that they're not over-prescribing in particular things like painkillers. They did agree to that as well. There was some general updating of language around the excise tax, and then clarifying of the difference between things like for vacation days and things like that for 10 and 12-month administrators. So I don't know if you'd like me to take you page by page through this so you can take a look at the changes. There's really no changes on 1 or page 2. No changes on page 3 or 4. Pages 5 and 6, we explain the changes there around the deductibles, the wellness plan, and the changing of the language regarding the excise tax on page 6. Page 7 has the payroll deduction amounts. On page 8, another change is that currently, right now, administrators can roll vacation days that they have not used and then get paid. They can roll 5, and then if they roll an additional 3 beyond that, they can get paid for those days. The provision grandfathers that provision for our current administrators, but does not move that forward for new administrators that may be hired by the district. So they will still be able to roll vacation days, but they would not get paid for excess vacation days beyond 5. On page 9, it was just a simple at the very top, adding spouse or partner. Page 10, there's no changes. Page 11 clarifies that the 10-month employees, the 10-month administrators do not get vacation time because they follow the 180-day schedule of students plus the 6 professional development days per staff. We also cleaned up the holiday language as well because the holidays, again, are for the 12-month administrators. On page 12, they agreed to changing the notification date for reduction in force from January to March 31st. And we added in the 2 new positions that were added prior to the last contract being negotiated of the Pupil Services Director and the Pupil Services Supervisor. Page 13 has the dates of the contract. Page 15 has the 2.5% increase plus the 0.5% adjustment for the Pupil Services Director and the Pupil Services Supervisor. And page 16 is the wellness information. I don't know if there's anyone on the negotiating committee that has anything that they'd like to add or.
You know, I just want to, Dave and Scott, I know you don't have a copy of this. Do you have any questions or want any clarification on anything that has been discussed regarding the contract? Okay. Scott?
No, that was the end of nothing I can do. I'm not good.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Comments?
So could you, again, on the salary schedule here, there's quite a jump. So it's a 2.5% per year?
Yes.
And then 5% one time?
0.5%.
0.5%.
0.5% per year for the pupil services director and pupil services supervisor as an equity adjustment.
Did you have a question, Joe?
That was one of them. And then, so remind me, the Pupil Services Director and the Pupil Services Supervisor, they were not in administration before?
They weren't listed in the contract that way. The pupil services supervisor is totally new position. The pupil services director was not listed in the reduction in force listing. They were in the contract before, but we added their actual spaces in the reduction in force on page 12. They were a part of the contract before. When we brought in the supervisor position, we added that through an MOU in the last contract. Because that happened before negotiating this whole contract.
And under the salary schedule, you have high school principal, middle school principal, high school assistant principal. Is there one of those, aren't two of those, the middle school positions are 10-month, right?
Yep.
And so is
So
one of the
we're
high schools.
missing one of the, yep. We're missing
Missing the 10-month,
we're missing, yes,
2 10-months.
thank you.
That the salaries listed for the assistant principals, are those well, I'll use the middle one, is that for 10 months? Or is that listed as 12 months?
I want to go back and look, I don't know, and since I don't have the original, I don't have the numbers since, I don't think the MOU numbers are in there from the 10-month, that would be my thinking that those are both 12-month positions that are listed, but I would have to back and check. I will give that feedback back to the lawyer tomorrow and have her update that. Thank you.
All right, so is there anything else that we have to do with this?
You just have to vote on it, so you'll have to make a motion for 11.2 to vote on that in the agreement, then it will sit in each of the 3 town offices for 30 days.
Okay, so we should make it based on the adjusted information?
The adjusted information, so we will, I'm positive that those are the 12-month numbers, not the 10-month, because the 10 months were in an MOU, so the lawyer probably didn't have them. I will have her update those, but they will be that would get posted to that corrected information.
Okay. So can I have a motion to accept the professional agreement between the Regional School District Number 8 Board of Education and the Regional School District Number 8 Administrators Association for their contract going from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2023.
With the addition of the 10-month salaries.
With the addition of the 10-month salaries. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, can I have all in favor?
Do we have any discussion?
Do you guys have any discussion?
Oh, no, I wasn't at the last meeting, I was at the meeting before, so I have the document.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so we're voting in favor of the motion or not. So all in favor? Can you just to show hands, are you guys in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thank you. Great, motion passes. All righty.
Can I ask you before we who was on the negotiation committee? We had picked members of the towns, right, represented as well?
For the administrative contract, no.
No?
No. For the teachers, I believe that they can sit in, but they don't have any voting power, but they can sit in, they're invited. But I don't know.
They can sit in on
Oh, yeah.
if they want to.
No one did from the town.
Nobody from the
Do
towns?
you want to know who was on the committee? Or?
No, I just
No
was
one-
curious if the people, members of the town, because when I was on it, there were people that were.
No, teachers, yeah.
The teacher contract usually has.
No one from the town showed up.
Were they invited?
The meeting's posted,
The
right?
meeting was posted. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
So when I was,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
when I was on the board of finance for Andover, we were asked to provide a member of the board of finance, and I believe we did have, I don't remember whether we had voting, but we could participate.
Yeah, I remember
But
that.
That was under Bob, so I don't know if that was extended.
We had them come to the teacher, or we invited the teachers, and actually Andover and Marlboro attended.
Yeah.
For the teacher's contract. Dieter, you didn't go?
One time, teachers, yes.
Yes. Okay, thanks. All right, 11.2. Oh, we just did, okay. Review and the expenditure and revenue report. So enclosure 11.3. Eva?
Okay, so in your packets you have the reports for the net position, the budget expenditure by object, the revenue report, the capital improvement, and pupil services program account. So after reviewing October based on the expenditures and projections, we have a net favorable position of $29,717. Pupil services is currently in the process of ensuring that IEPs are going through, and any changes that are being seen through the IEP process are being adjusted. The purchase orders are being adjusted accordingly, either up or down for those services and or placement changes. The capital improvement fund is reflecting a net favorable position of $205,301. $81,981 of that dollar amount is for the HVAC in the media center and the weight room. The purchase order was put in on November 1st, so just after October 31st. The rest of the money is reserved for the camera upgrade. We're currently reviewing two of the proposals that were submitted. We only had two proposals come in. And Mr. Buckley was out ill today, so unfortunately we couldn't move it a little bit forward at the moment. So we will get back to that tomorrow, if the position. But any questions at this time?
Any questions, Scott or Dave, or about the expenditure and revenue report?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you, Eva. Got the first reading of policy. Policy 1340, advertising and promotion in the school system. Policy number 4157 and 4257, employment and student teacher checks. And policy 5470, wellness. I'll need a motion that the RHAM Board of Ed agrees to move the policies as I've just stated to second reading. Can I have a motion, please? Motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
What is the committee? Is the committee moving this to the second reading?
So at the committee meeting, what you'll see in the packet, first of all, is for the advertising and promotion in the school system. The first policy is 1340. The first policy you see in your packet is our current policy. The one that follows it is all in bold, and it's all in bold because it is fully updated and changed from our current policy based on what Shipman and Goodwin has recommended through their updating of this policy. So this is around being clear around different types of advertising logos, regulations regarding all of that, and student privacy has been included in that as well. So it is a very different policy than the current one we have, but it is up to date. The next one around personnel deals with changes regarding student teachers and teacher preparation programs. It's policy 4157 and 4257. It adds those specific areas around student teacher checks, as well as updating some of the definitions of sexual misconduct, abuse, and neglect, former employer. and specifies some of the specifics around the requirements of the applicant to list former employees and being specific around the time frame for that. And then on page 5 of that, again, in relation to listing all different types of employees, rather than just the Board of Education, being more specific around that. On page, again, former employees, page 6, there's just, again, some clarification around former employer. And on page 7, as far as, again, talking about student teacher and teacher prep program expectations, more around student teachers and teacher prep on page 8. Also, please note at the bottom of page 8, the fees and costs associated with fingerprinting processing and the submission of the process are waived for student teachers. What they have found is that, student teachers get at least 2 assignments in every district they would go to. They would have to be re-fingerprinted, and those costs go up for students. And so the legislature found that it was really not fair to be asking student teachers who are in school trying to do all of this, they continue to have to pay for their fingerprinting at that rate. So student teacher fingerprinting fees are waived based on this policy. More again around on page 10, around the adding of the student teacher and the compliance with the State Board of Education on page 11. The last policy was the wellness policy. This needs to be updated based on our audit with the food service and had to have specific areas included in that were not included in our previous policy. That this will help to make us compliant for our next review and is required for that process. So again, the marketing of food on campus, assessments, informing the public, the focus of our wellness actual programming are all listed in there and updated as far as record keeping on the last page as well.
Any questions?
Who is responsible for the wellness policy? Making sure that this is adhered to.
It states right in there that it's primarily that it falls, so.
Board of Education.
The Board of Education and the superintendent it's my responsibility to make sure that we have the advisory council meeting, that these guidelines are happening, and that these guidelines are shared with the company that we also are contracting with, and making sure that we hold them accountable to these expectations as well. So for example, on page 3, the guidelines for marketing of food on campus, whoever our vendor is responsible for making sure that those types of things would happen as far as during school, after school. We would need to make sure that any of our groups that would be using the facility for any types of after school activities are aware of this policy as well. The assessments we have to do.
So it's your job.
In partnership with the board.
Any other questions? All those in favor of moving the stated policies to second reading? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passed. And now it's time for 11.5, strategic plan update.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being able to take a few minutes to share with you where we are with the strategic plan since it is a 5-year plan. We've been doing a lot of work on the plan. And so giving you an update as to where we are with the plan, as well as what we're looking at and forecasting for this year. And I think that's really important because the forecasting for this year, and what we'll talk a little bit about in the review, is important because you're going to hear some of these consistent themes as we do the budget. So this is really, again, as we know, we have a strategic plan. We have core vision, mission, and commitments that we have for the district. That it is that mission, vision, and commitments that are going to drive the programming and the budgeting and the decision-making that we do as a district. And a theory of action that is very specific around engaging teachers and students in learning and growth, providing them opportunities that happen both in the classroom and outside of the classroom, and then making sure that there's a variety of these activities for students and learning opportunities for students. And if we do all of those things with our teachers and with our students, we believe our students will develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills and find success as citizens moving forward in both college and career. So since we have a strategic plan, we use this to guide the decision-making that we are doing each and every day in the district. Budget will tie to all of this and really be linked to how we plan for success. It is very clear, and we know that when we are aligned, when we have all of our systems aligned, from the strategic plan to the superintendent's goals, to the building goals, department goals, teacher goals, when all of that is focused and we are all moving in the same direction, we will end up with student success. We will have our students that will be college and career ready. They will have the skills, dispositions, knowledge to be successful here and beyond. So the alignment and success of our students is key. And again, this is something you're going to hear throughout the budget presentations this year. At the last board meeting, the school presented their 2 school goals for the year. What you'll see is they've tied it to the strategic plan goal 1, which I'll talk more about momentarily. They actually created a school goal to increase student college and career readiness by providing early identification of gaps and strengths and learning and providing opportunities for growth. So we're spending a lot of time right now using data teams and data and information to look at where are our students being successful, where is instruction working well for students, where do we need to improve. And we believe that if we do that, then our cohort scores for both PSAT and SAT will increase. Because the PSAT and SAT test the critical skills and content that are aligned to the standards that we teach and that we know are important for success for students moving forward. So that's one of the school goals that we've already talked about. It's aligned to everything that we're doing in the district and aligned to our strategic plan. The second school goal that was shared with you is around, again, those gaps and strengths and learning opportunities, but around skills and dispositions. Because we know that for students to be successful, academic content and knowledge is really important, but it's not the only thing that's important. And we identified as a district 5 key skills and dispositions that we expect our students to be able to demonstrate. And so that we expect this year will be the first year where students will actually be taking a self-reflective survey and identifying areas where they are strong in their skills and dispositions with things like integrity, communication, collaboration, and where they need areas to grow. I like this because it really is, I believe in strategic planning, and I believe in goal setting as the vehicle that moves everything forward. Without it, you're haphazard, you don't know, we're not sure what it is we're doing and where we're trying to get to. We are very clear as a district through our strategic plan and through our school goals what we are trying to achieve for students and helping them to be successful. So let's take a little bit of a journey through the 5 goals of the strategic plan. Again, the very specific details of all the strategies and things that we have done, this strategic plan is posted on the website, and you can see that. This is much more of a summary around where we are with the strategic plan. Where are we and where are we going? So the first goal, again, is around the whole idea of growth and development of skills, competencies, and dispositions for college and career readiness, and be citizens that are ready to deal with the ever-changing world. You young ladies have got a lot ahead of you, so we want to make sure you're well prepared. So what have we done? Like I said, we've actually developed the skills and dispositions of a RHAM graduate. We have also started to really outline and dig deeply into interventions. So SRBI types of processes for students. When students are struggling, how do we respond? And taking a look at what do those mean for students here at RHAM, but also what are our elementary schools doing, and how can we help to link, as students move from the elementary schools to the middle school and high school, how can we link those the support systems we have in place for students so that there's no gaps there and that it's more effective. So we've been starting to outline those and looking at where are our similarities and where are our differences. As you saw just recently, we have one school goal, middle school, high school, single 7-12 goal. Really important for that alignment for us to be happening. Data teams are working on looking at both individual student data as well as big picture data from Smarter Balance, from PSAT, from SAT, from NWEA, and from classroom-based measures. We have our departments that each have identified skills from the PSATs and SATs that they're actually working on as a department. So not just the types of content skills, like reading words in context, but also test-taking skills. So we're actually embedding that learning within our curriculum in each of our different departments. And we've also identified and clearly articulated what are our career pathways for students, how do you reach those with the different types of classes you can take, and we're continuing to take a look at those. So that's where we've been. We've done a lot in a couple of years with the strategic plan. So where are we going? Here are some of the things you're going to start to see and hear more about in our budget, and you'll see more reports about. We're actually, like I said, we're going to actually have students evaluate where they are with skills and dispositions. And we're going to start to track and collect that data and information and have them look at that over time, so both in the middle school and in the high school, and use that within our curriculum, within our guidance department. It actually will be up on the website, on the district website, where we have a data page once we have that data collected. We're trying to expand our internship and work-based experiences for students, which the state is very much in support of, but it's actually not as easy as you would think it would be, because getting students to leave here and go into work-based experiences, there's a lot of components to that, and a lot of rules and regulations we have to work through. But we think it's really important, as you heard tonight from our CERT and EMT students, hands-on, real life, having experiencing what it is, the learning that I'm going to actually be doing. We want to provide more of those opportunities for students. So we have some of those things in the works right now. Also looking at having more of our course options. You're going to hear about some new course options that are coming forward through the budget process this year. Again, different opportunities for students to learn, connecting to those college and career skills and information that we're hoping to promote for our students. We are also looking at our individualized plans for students that are struggling in relation to areas that we find on the PSAT and SAT, and making sure that we have individual programs in place for students, as well as also looking at our curriculum and making some changes. So you're going to hear a lot more about our intervention processes this year, and you're also going to see some suggestions in the budget around ways that we want to shift or change our programming and interventions for students. We will look to expand our college and career pathways and do different types of planning with students, and you'll also see that we're going to start to engage our extracurriculars and our athletic department in the conversations around the skills and dispositions. It's not just something that happens during the school day, it also needs to flow into the after-school time. So those are things that you'll see moving forward. I'm not sure if you have questions after each goal, or should I go through all 5 goals and then you have questions? What works best for you?
I don't know. Does anybody have any questions now?
I'm on a roll. Okay, goal 2. Develop professional staff to promote positive school climate. So some of the things we've already done, we've created a hiring manual. It has very specific rubric that we actually use that talks about the qualities of the person we're looking for, not just their certifications. So really trying to identify what is it that we want in the people that we're hiring at RHAM, making sure that they match with who we are and what we're looking for. This year we developed 6 professional development groups that are working on a variety of areas to help the whole school move forward and do professional learning for the adults as well as helping us to do things, make changes that are best for our students. The 6 professional development groups are looking at teacher evaluation, which you will hear more about, SRBI, which we've already spoken a little bit about. Restorative practices, you're going to hear more about that through the budget process for sure. Assessment, mission, and capstone. So you'll hear more about the results of these professional development groups. But what's awesome is every single teacher and staff member signed up for one of these groups and is a member of making these groups move forward, making decisions, bringing recommendations forward. This is all about people having voice and making the recommendations for the next steps in each of those areas. Our SEL work is continuing. We've added students to our group and we're continuing to take a look at how to implement lessons in our curriculum. With that, we are reading a book as a district, Fostering Resilient Learners. I think I've shared that also with the board. Again, that promoting of professional and positive school climate is really important. When we're all reading the same thing and talking about the same topic, I think it provides a lot of strength to promoting a positive school climate. And obviously the staff is leading a lot of the professional development on the PD Day, just this last Professional Development Day on Technology. 6 of our teachers that actually went to the Google Summit, which was on the weekend, came back and presented what they learned at the Google Summit workshops to our teachers here. So professional staff working with the teaching professional staff is awesome. We look to continue to provide that as an opportunity for our teachers, as well as taking the recommendations from the PD groups and moving those recommendations forward. Some of them will have budget implications, so you'll hear more about that in particular, probably with restorative practices and possibly with capstone and teacher evaluation. And one of the things that we've had some conversations about is every other year we do a climate survey with students, with parents, and with teachers and staff. Some of the feedback has been that the questions on that don't necessarily tie and help us to really evaluate what it is we want to be focusing on here. There's kind of a disconnect between the questions and the actual survey. So we're going to start to explore, are there better or different surveys or something that we could do differently that maybe makes a closer connection to some of the things we're focusing on, as well as some of the areas of concern that staff and students and parents might want to be reflecting on. So that's around positive school climate for professionals. Goal 3 is around,
Just for clarification, when you come to something like SEL, there might be people who don't know what that is.
Social emotional learning, thank you. Goal 3 is around budgeting and declining enrollment, which you will also hear a lot about in my budget presentation. I will be providing you with the data around what do our enrollment numbers look like now, what are the projections moving forward, and how are we making sure to have a fiscally responsible and responsive budget that responds to the needs of our students, but also to the needs of the town. And that's always an interesting balance. We do use enrollment data. We have provided an enhanced website so that people can more easily find information around the district and trying to promote the district that way. Our pipeline program is something that was developed, as well as just generally building relationships with and presenting and working with the 3 towns. Although we don't officially have the Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen and the towns have a vote to what we are doing and proposing in our budget, it's really important that we have those collaborative relationships. We're all working together in the best interest of our students. We want to make sure from the time they enter school, the elementary school, and walk across the stage here at graduation, that we've all been able to work together with our budgeting, with our programming, and making sure that we are utilizing our resources the best we can so that they have the best experiences possible for success. We do have an updated budget manual that we continually update that provides a lot of information, but also links to the goals of the district and helps to provide the story moving forward of the budget and how they all connect. We will be looking at in the upcoming budget and where are we going, we're looking to bring in more programming and more types of classes that actually provide certifications for students. So we know we have the pipeline program, and that allows students to be able to graduate with a certificate with specific experience that allows them to get a job right out of school. There are other types of programs out there that allow certifications or certificate types of recognition for students that can give them a leg up and help them to be able to, either in college or career, take that next step more successfully upon graduation. So you will hear about some of those certification types of programs that will be coming through the budget process. We also hope to continue to utilize local media to be able to just promote the great things that are happening here. Again, tonight, our schools in the spotlight, promoting that information, providing information in local publications, being at meetings, and promoting the district, because we do a lot of things really well here, and it's important that we recognize that and that we get that message out to the public. The fourth goal is around a culture of safety, acceptance, pride, support with students, families, staff, and community. Safety doesn't necessarily just mean facility safety. It also means emotional safety. Our focus on social emotional learning has been important with that. Having the SRO here, having the different types of trainings we just had on our half-day PD day, working with and making sure that our safety plan is up to date. We've done all of those things and will continue to do those things moving forward. You will see in the budget that there are a variety of safety items that are facility-based as well as social-emotional based that we think are important to provide that safety and acceptance for our students moving forward. We'll continue to look at refining our relationship with AHM and providing some of those services and what we're going to look like moving forward, as well as we're in the process right now of doing a special education program review, how are we providing services there, and some changes that might happen through that department as well with the budget moving forward. So you will see some changes there. And lastly, enhancing the facilities in order to support innovative and fully accessible teaching and learning and extracurricular opportunities. We did have a wonderful hour or so walkthrough of the capital plan for this year. We do have a long-term capital spreadsheet that takes a look at all the different types of projects that we're looking at, both technology-wise and facility-wise for the district, so we will continue to use those things. We've had the Athletic Parent Advisory Committee, and we have a Board of Education Fields Improvement Subcommittee. Those types of different types of committees meeting and making sure that we're hearing the needs of different groups and bringing that forward in the process is an important part. ADA compliance has been another important part. Just, I don't know if everyone on the board saw that, but we had a compliance review, I think it was about 5-7 years ago. We had a number of elements that we were out of compliance with ADA. You've seen those elements within our budget. We just received a letter from the state. The last couple of things that were on our compliance review that we had to complete, we have passed, and that has been closed. So all of those open items that were in the ADA compliance review from before have been closed with the completion of the softball dugouts, the pathway to softball and pathway to baseball being completed. Still doesn't mean that there aren't areas where we need to continue to improve and look at the ADA accessibility moving forward, so those were important. ADA accessibility through technology is another area we have to be very careful of. Access and being able to access information through our website is something we have to make sure is constantly updated for ADA compliance as well. We will continue to research different types of teaching strategies, making sure we have innovation in both our facility and our technology, and you will see again some of that coming through within the budget moving forward. What questions?
Goal 4, social media, increased use of social media. What social media are we talking about?
So right now in the district we have a Twitter and a Facebook page, and we could utilize that more effectively, I think. From the school perspective, even just making sure that we're promoting the things that are out there. I should be using that a little bit more, I think, in promoting some of the big ideas of the district and being able to get that information out that way, as well as just the website itself, which I think we do a pretty good job with. But I'm utilizing some of those areas more specifically right now is what we're talking about.
And like possibly through social media, Facebook has creating events, and you can create an event, even on, I think there's a separate Facebook page just for Region 8, and then there's one for the school.
Yes.
Possibly just putting out their events for our board meetings, the budget meetings that are coming up. We have one weekly. So possibly on the Region 8 Facebook page, creating events, and then the reminders are sent out to everyone that way. That's just a suggestion.
I can look at that with the technology department.
And that was one question. Oh, I know, one more. The goal 4, where it says student-led conferences at the middle school. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So the middle school piloted with a small group last year, and I think can I actually ask Dr. Susi just to answer that since he's here?
So last year, the whole 8th grade piloted the use of student-led conferences. And so what students have done this year, actually the 8th grade and the inquiry team, and so what they're doing this year, again, the 7th grade teams, the 2 7th grade teams will have regular conferences with parents by team, but the 8th graders will do a student-led conference. And this is sort of, for the fall, basically they're going to analyze their own work. They're picking pieces of work in each of the classes that mean something to them, sort of like a portfolio, and explaining what it means to them, what goals they had for these last 9 weeks. And how are they progressing towards goals, and what goals do they have for the future? And so parents will sign up for a conference. The student comes in, goes through we have a template with a PowerPoint, goes through the PowerPoint with their parents, showing them how they're doing in each of the classes, and having hopefully a meaningful conversation about their grades and what they're doing in school. And then if they have questions, they can talk to their student about questions. The teacher is there as a facilitator. If there are any outside questions or comments that the student can't answer, the teacher might jump in and help out, or direct them to get an answer from another staff member. So that's something we piloted last year. It was very successful. Even if parents don't come to the conference, they are sending home the student PowerPoint presentation to the parents, so that the parents can have the conversation at home, whether they come here or not.
I do. On goal 4.
Goal 4?
Yeah, refine, it says where are we going? So refine RHAM and RHAM programming related to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So changes coming?
What you'll see in part of my budget coming forward is that we've really been analyzing deeply the mental health needs of students, the number of actual documented issues, as well as things that happen without us necessarily expecting them to happen. We right now have a partnership with RHAM where we have 2 different personnel that are here. One is a licensed clinical social worker, one is a counselor, continuing to look at we're still looking to have 2 positions with RHAM, but continuing to talk about what should those positions be, how should they be functioning here, and making sure that we have the right personnel here and through RHAM to meet the mental health needs of our students. Does that answer that question?
Is it 2 additional, so are we increasing?
No, right now I would continue to have the 2 personnel through RHAM, but in my budget, what you will probably see is that I will have other positions that I'm looking at from the district perspective in relation to mental health needs. I promise more answers will be coming in December and January, more details surrounding that. But the one thing just to be clear about is that We have 2 positions right now that we work with AHM with. We look to continue to have 2 positions with AHM moving forward.
Can I ask, what's your concern, Joe?
Well, that was my concern, are we adding staff?
Oh, that's adding staff, that's where your concern is, okay.
That's not adding staff with AHM, it's looking
I
at.
know, we have AHM, we have an agreement with AHM in the
Right.
community, so I know we have people here, so I was just curious.
But just to follow up with Joe's question, you're saying our needs have changed and we need to increase our mental health support here at RHAM.
We need to change our mental health support, and what you will see is an increase in personnel that will come through in specific areas in my budget. But we also need to make sure that the programming and what we are looking for from AHM is meeting the needs of students here as well. Any other questions?
Kind of a general one. I know that you put in a lot of sort of data systems for gathering data, and but some of them sound like some of them were new.
Performance Matters is a new system
So are you
that's still not
getting-
quite working.
Oh, well, that's what I wanted an update on. Are we to a point where that's going to be valid inputs into decision making yet, or are you still collecting data and it's going to be about?
The areas where I need data, I can gather data. The system, the Performance Matters system is really more for the data teams here and teachers to be using data on a more regular basis. I can get what I need for the budget. It might be a little bit more cumbersome then, but that I can get myself. So I will have any of the data that I need for budget information. The Performance Matters system we're still struggling with some of the polls that are coming from Power School into that. We've been working consistently and ongoing with the company. We have also let them know that we are now at the end of November. We still don't have the system that works effectively, and we are also working with them on a change in the billing for what they're charging us, since we have not been able to use the system appropriately since the start of the year.
Scott and Dave, do you have any questions or thoughts about the presentation? Okay, thanks. Yeah, no.
Okay. You mentioned the survey. Are you still going to purchase a survey, or are you going to try to create your own, or are you going to have a purchase survey plus something that supplants
I
or
don't
supplements what we
know.
want?
I don't know yet. The one we use from EastCon is purchased.
Right.
And I think we need to just look at what are the options out there. There are a variety of different companies that align to the state requirements for these types of climate surveys and provide different types of options. EastCon might still be able to help us to tailor it a little bit more, but I really need some input from the staff and the students and the faculty before I can better figure out what it is we're going to do. So this is in very, very, very early stages.
If the board had input or the board wanted specific questions based on when that survey comes out, because I know we spent some time looking at that, maybe if we had an idea about what we wanted to get back from that survey, we could have some input as to what types of questions could be in there as well.
Sure. I can make sure that we include feedback from you about that.
You also mentioned a special ed program review and update.
Yes.
Is that something that we could do in either the finance or program subcommittee?
Probably program.
To see how that looks, what's going on.
Yes, we can be doing that in program subcommittee. Any other questions or comments?
Great job.
Thank you.
committees. Facility, safety, and transportation. We last met on October 16th. So was that before or after our last meeting? When was our last meeting?
It actually, this was read at, I think, at the last meeting, but
When's our minutes from them?
I didn't get the minutes in yet.
No, I'm talking about October 21st was our last meeting. So, yep, okay, so this is old.
I summarized.
Okay.
It was old information.
Okay.
Just one thing to follow up on with that. There was still a question about the actual start date on the warranty. Our lawyer is continuing to work with Heaney on getting that clarified in writing for us, so we have the specific date to start the warranty in writing, but I do not have that yet.
Okay. All right, so the next meeting is coming up on November.
Tuesday before Thanksgiving, next Tuesday.
Okay.
And I did reach out to the committee today. I sent out an email to get some comments back for follow-up.
Thank you.
And I think on the agenda, it says Wednesday, and then the date. So
Okay, I will check that. It was draft anyhow, so I will definitely check that. Thank you.
It's the 26th. But when
It's Tuesday the 26th. I might have said in the draft agenda, because I just had a draft agenda that I sent out.
Yeah, it says Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. I will change that.
Okay, finance, audit, compliance, and insurance. Has that met since the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So that, does anybody want to report on that? I can read what's here. If somebody from the committee doesn't want to report.
Basically, what you wrote is what we did. We talked about the new system and how long the training is that's going on.
Okay.
And there's a camera RFP still out. That was supposed to be discussed at facilities.
Okay. Negotiations. We met on November 4th and 12th, and the contract between the administrators is something we talked about earlier, and we agreed to. Policy.
We just
Went forward with what we voted on tonight.
Okay. Program communication. We met on October 30th. Reviewed the goal for the year and discussed an outlined communication plan for the Board of Education. All right. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
Pat did, to Joe's question, Pat did talk a little bit about RHAM and the needs of the students and what they're currently offering us and how to potentially look at what our students' needs are and how to work with them.
Okay. DOT traffic grant, I think they met today.
Yes.
Anybody want to find an update?
That's exactly what we did today.
Okay, so the committee met and discussed placement of the lit sign for the RHAM High School, reviewed the RFP process, and discussed the DOT letter regarding the water runoff.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else we should add to that? No?
Just wait on the state more than anything.
Okay. Those what?
Just waiting on the state more than anything. We have to get the approval from them before we can go forward.
Okay. Special Subcommittee Fields Improvement Subcommittee. Next meeting is December 9th at 6:30.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And facilitators for Ed Foundation. I think that's folded, I don't know. Is it folded? Dave? Okay. All right, and then.
It was ad hoc as it was, and I don't think there's majority.
Okay. So then there's the East Con and Cave. I did not appoint anybody for that to represent RHAM. Maybe you can take that on next month. maybe, if you're easier. Yeah. And Kate, representative for East Con, has said they'd like us to appoint somebody or reappoint somebody.
So East Con and K, do they both have to be the same person or?
No.
And so we're looking to have a rep for both of them.
Right, East Con has just asked for us to,
Right.
yeah, Kate hasn't said anything.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then moving on to public comments. Does anybody have any public comments? Rich? Go ahead.
Rich Jacobson, Hebron. I saw the article in the paper on Friday that Andover wanted to consider moving the 6th and 7th graders to Bolton. I would really hope that RHAM and the 3 towns would actually get together and seriously consider moving the elementary schools within the RHAM system, or if they're really having a problem with the 6th graders, consider moving just 6th grades to RHAM. Certainly RHAM has the capability, and it would make for a much better uniformed school for the students that are attend RHAM. So.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, the informational items, 14.1 is the calendar of events, and 14.2 is student discipline.
And I know we're trying to get the student discipline reports in line, we just haven't gotten there yet, but we are working on that.
I did have a question about that too, or I guess it's not a question, just a statement, is the high school in-school suspension. I see 2 incidents on there about use of vape, and they were in-school suspension for 3 days and 2 days, and I really hope that we're doing other prevention methods other than just sticking them in in-school suspension along with this.
Yes, we do. We provide both a succession plan and other types of informational programming for those students.
Thank you. I just, I guess just for the last time, but I just want to comment on the in-school suspension for failure to report to detentions. Granted, it's only 1 day. I'm hoping that there's more creative ways that we can address the insubordination or whatever it is of not attending detentions rather than excluding classes. Just a thought.
And I can bring that up to the restorative practices subcommittee or subgroup, professional development group that's working.
Okay. So now we're moving.
Okay, just a correction for the calendar under November 27th, you've got yearly release. Sort of early. You're missing a lot. I don't know how publicly documented.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll be moving into executive session. So could I have a motion to move into executive session to discuss the Stairs lawsuit and to invite the superintendent to join us? So moved. Can I have a second? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Scott and Dave, you've got to sign off.